The splintering crash echoed through the otherwise serene cul-de-sac. A brutal cacophony tearing at the peace. My blood ran cold. A familiar knot tightening in my stomach. Could she really be doing this? Right here. Right now. In broad daylight. My jaw clenched. The taste of bitter injustice sharp on my tongue. It was Tuesday morning. The kind of perfect, sun-drenched day that promised nothing but tranquility. Until she arrived. Karen. In her pristine white tennis visor and perfectly pressed linen shorts. Descended upon Mrs. Henderson's prize-winning rose garden. Not with pruning shears. But with a crowbar. A crowbar. The elderly Mrs. Henderson, frail and trembling, stood helpless on her porch. Her whispered pleas lost in the metallic screeches of the fence being ripped apart. My heart pounded a furious rhythm against my ribs. This wasn't just about a fence. It was about years of systemic tyranny. Of petty rules weaponized. Of a neighborhood held hostage by one woman's insatiable desire for control. My breath hitched. How many times had we all swallowed our pride? Bitten our tongues. Just to avoid her wrath. This time, though, something snapped. A raw, guttural cry escaped Mrs. Henderson's lips as Karen, with a triumphant smirk, delivered the final blow, sending a section of the ornate picket fence tumbling onto the hydrangeas. The sound was like a gunshot, echoing the death of civility. My mind raced. A whirlwind of outrage and disbelief. Was there no limit to her audacity? No line she wouldn't cross? The sudden, sharp yelp of a dog cut through the stunned silence. And my head snapped towards the sound. My heart leaped into my throat. Rex. And Daisy. My two retired military K9s. Usually the picture of stoic discipline. Had reacted. They hadn't barked. No. Not a sound of aggression. But a low, throaty rumble of concern emanated from Rex. A warning. A primal response to distress. My hand flew to my mouth, stifling a gasp. They were off-leash in the yard. A rare indulgence. And the sound of destruction had clearly unsettled them. Karen, oblivious in her triumph, turned. Crowbar still clutched like a scepter. Her eyes gleaming with a predatory satisfaction. Then she saw them. Two magnificent German shepherds. Muscles rippling under their sleek coats. Now standing alert. Ears perked. Their gaze fixed on her destructive act. The smirk vanished from her face, replaced by a flash of genuine fear. Ah! The mighty Karen. Suddenly less mighty. A small, almost imperceptible tremor ran through her hand. Good. Maybe. Just maybe. This was the turn of the tide. I stepped out onto my porch. My voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Karen. What on earth do you think you're doing? My voice, usually calm, carried a steel edge I hadn't known I possessed. She flinched. Startled. As if my presence was an unwelcome intrusion into her personal demolition derby. Her eyes narrowed. The fear quickly replaced by her signature condescension. Oh. It's you. Agent Miller. Always lurking. Aren't we? This fence, as you should know, violates architectural uniformity bylaws. Section 4. Subsection B. Paragraph 7. Clear as day. Her voice was like nails on a chalkboard, dripping with self-righteousness. She even tapped her crowbar against the fallen wood, as if emphasizing her perfectly legal, perfectly destructive point. It has to go. And frankly, your pets are also in violation of the Unleashed Animal Ordinance. You're lucky I haven't reported you yet. Oh. The audacity. My military K9s, who had served our nation with honor, reduced to pets and violations. My blood boiled. A slow, simmering rage that had been building for years. Bylaws. Karen. This is Mrs. Henderson's property. And her fence was here long before your little HOA power trip began. I retorted, my voice rising, fueled by indignation. Rex, ever vigilant, took a slow, deliberate step forward, his eyes never leaving Karen. Daisy, more subtle, positioned herself protectively between me and the damaged fence. Karen's eyes darted to them, a flicker of unease returning. Control yourself, Agent Miller. And control your animals. This is for the good of the community. She shrieked, her voice cracking slightly. Community. She was tearing it apart. One rule at a time. The absurdity of it all was almost comical. If it weren't so infuriating. I let out a low, disbelieving laugh. Good of the community. You've terrorized this community for years. Karen. You fined Mrs. Peterson for her wind chimes. Mr. Chung for his perfectly manicured lawn. And now you're destroying Mrs. Henderson's fence. Enough. Suddenly, a new voice cut through the tension. Agent Miller is right. Karen. It was Mr. Davies, the elderly gentleman from across the street, emerging from his home, leaning heavily on his cane. His voice, usually soft, now held a surprising firmness. That fence was a landmark. And I saw you. You didn't even knock. Just barged right in. Karen spun around, her face a mask of shocked indignation. Her carefully constructed facade of authority was crumbling, piece by piece, under the weight of truth. The young mother, who had been watching silently, now stepped forward, her child still clutching her leg. And what about the constant threats? The invasive inspections. My son cries when he sees your car. Karen. He thinks you're the rule monster. Her voice quivered with raw emotion, echoing the silent frustrations of so many. The accusations, once whispered behind closed doors, were now shouted in the open, exposed under the harsh morning sun. Karen's complexion, usually flushed with self-importance, now paled noticeably. The crowd, a silent audience a moment ago, now started to murmur. A low hum of agreement and shared resentment. This was it. The moment of truth. Karen, desperate to regain control, thrust the crowbar forward. Not at anyone, but as a symbolic gesture. A desperate attempt to assert dominance. This is my neighborhood. I make the rules. And I will not tolerate insubordination or unsightly fences. She declared, her voice shrill. A desperate attempt at a roar that came out as a pathetic squeak. That's when the unexpected happened. Rex, sensing her aggressive posture, responded. Not with an attack, but with a series of quick, precise maneuvers. Honed by years of military training, he moved with a speed that defied his size. Circling her, herding her away from Mrs. Henderson's property. Daisy, mirroring his movements, went to the fallen fence, gently picking up a piece of the splintered wood, carrying it away from the pathway. It was a silent, tactical precision. An unspoken command that flowed between them, born of years of training and an instinct for protection. Karen stumbled back, genuinely terrified now. Not by aggression, but by the sheer, overwhelming competence of these animals. She dropped the crowbar with a clatter, her eyes wide with disbelief. It was as if the very laws of the universe, her laws, had been momentarily suspended. What are they doing?" she stammered, her voice barely a whisper, her eyes darting between Rex, who maintained a watchful, unblinking gaze, and Daisy, who had now nudged the stray piece of wood neatly beside a rose bush. "They're protecting Karen," I stated, my voice calm, but laced with a quiet power. "Protecting what's right. Protecting the innocent. Something you seem to have forgotten." The irony was thick in the air. The HOA president, whose sole purpose was supposedly to protect the community, was being gently but firmly controlled by two dogs who understood justice better than she ever could. A faint whimper escaped her lips. The sound wasn't of pain, but of utter, complete humiliation. She looked around, expecting to find allies, but saw only faces hardened by years of her abuses, now softened with a flicker of hope. She was alone. Truly, utterly alone. The air hummed with a palpable shift in power. The silence stretched, broken only by the chirping of birds and the soft panting of the dogs. Karen, defeated, finally sank to her knees amidst the splintered wood and trampled flowers. The pristine white of her visor seemed to mock her, a stark contrast to the disheveled, crumbling figure she now was. Her perfectly styled hair, once so rigid, had come undone, strands falling across her tear-streaked face. It was a stunning collapse, a complete surrender. No more bravado, no more threats, just the raw, exposed vulnerability of a bully finally stripped of her power. Mrs. Henderson, emboldened by the silent victory, slowly made her way down her porch steps. She bent down, picked up a single, unbroken white picket, and handed it to Karen. Her voice, though still soft, carried an unexpected strength. "This is what community looks like, Karen. Not torn down, but built up." Karen clutched the picket, her knuckles white, her gaze fixed on the ground. A single tear escaped, tracing a path through the dust on her cheek. Was it regret? Shame? Or simply the shock of realizing her reign was over? Perhaps all three. The crowd, once murmuring, now watched in respectful silence, witnessing not just the downfall of a tyrant, but the quiet, dignified reclamation of their neighborhood. The sun seemed to shine a little brighter, illuminating a path towards healing. In the days that followed, the cul-de-sac underwent a quiet transformation. The new HOA president, Mr. Davies, a man of quiet integrity, initiated open forums and transparent decision-making. Mrs. Henderson's fence was lovingly rebuilt by neighbors. Stronger and more beautiful than before. A symbol of resilience. Karen, surprisingly, didn't vanish entirely. She sold her house. But before she left, she did something truly unexpected. She anonymously paid for the new fence. Not just Mrs. Henderson's, but for 2 other families she had previously tormented. Was it genuine remorse? A desperate attempt at redemption? Or merely a final act of silent penance? We may never know for certain. But her departure, though marked by an unexpected gesture, undeniably brought a profound sense of peace. Rex and Daisy, oblivious to their role in the grand scheme, continued their patrols. Their quiet presence a comforting reminder that sometimes justice doesn't roar. It simply stands guard. The air tasted sweeter. The laughter of children echoing freely in the newly reclaimed freedom of our streets. The lessons were subtle but profound. Power, when wielded without empathy, will inevitably crumble. And true strength often lies in quiet dignity. In standing up for what is right. And in the unwavering loyalty of unexpected heroes. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? When lines are drawn, and choices are made, how do we truly distinguish between right and wrong? And where do you stand?